The boy picked his way through scrub and rock until a flash of plastic caught his eye, an empty bottle half buried in grass. He lifted his gaze and froze. Two men lay side by side on the slope, dressed in neat suits and raincoats despite the heat. Each face was covered by a thick, crudely cut plate of lead, shaped to the eyes and held with ribbon. Their hands rested over their stomachs, as if arranged there. No blood, no sign of a fight. Just a hillside above the bay at Niterói, Brazil, and two dead men staring at nothing through masks that didn't have holes. 3 days earlier, on Wednesday, August 17, 1966, the men had set out from Campos dos Goitacazes, about 170 miles to the northeast. They were electronics technicians, Manuel Pereira de Cruz, 32, and Miguel José Viana, 34. They told family they were going to Rio to buy parts for work. They took cash, boarded a bus, and reached Niterói by afternoon. Witnesses remembered them as tidy and calm, both in dark suits. At a shop, they bought waterproof raincoats. At a bar on Alameda São Boaventura, they purchased a bottle of mineral water and returned the receipt. Then the trail broke into fragments. A cab ride, a hillside called Morro do Vintém, and evening lights on the bay. The masks were not bought. They had been cut from lead sheet and bent by hand. A co-worker later said the men had made them days before, trimming and smoothing the edges as if for a specific use. Their families knew nothing about it. At their workplace, a notebook held lists of parts and projects. One page held a strange instruction line in Portuguese. 16:30 estar no local determinado. 18:30 ingerir cápsulas. Após efeito proteger metais, aguardar sinal máscara. In English, 4:30 p.m. be at the specified place. 6:30 p.m. ingest capsules. After the effect, protect the metals. Await the signal, mask. The handwriting was theirs. No capsules were found at the scene. The bodies were discovered on Saturday, August 20th, by the boy and a friend who had climbed the hill near late afternoon. They ran to alert authorities. Police and firefighters followed the path past shacks and brush to a shelf of ground with a view toward Guanabara Bay. The two men lay on their backs, side by side. A plastic bag and towels lay nearby, along with the empty water bottle and the raincoats they wore over suits and ties. In their pockets were cash and a receipt from the bar. A wristwatch had stopped. No weapons, no vomit or foam. The lead masks covered their eyes from brow to cheek. They were not marked with names and had no slots to see through. Officers wrote what they could. Photographs fixed the positions. The bodies were taken down the slope. A search of Morro do Vintém found no obvious sign of ritual, no spent capsules, no fire ring, no car. An early rumor said a woman on a nearby ridge had seen a bright orange light hanging over the hill the night the men disappeared, a light that rose and fell and then shot away. Police wrote down the story, but they could not tie it to anything that would stand up in a lab. The autopsies were slow to start and incomplete when they did. The local morgue was overwhelmed, and the delay meant internal organs had deteriorated before they were tested. The medical examiner found no gunshot wounds, no deep bruising, no broken bones that pointed to a beating. There was no sign of a stab wound. Toxicology, limited by the state of the remains, failed to identify a poison. With no traceable drug, no trauma, and no water in the lungs to suggest drowning, the report came back inconclusive. Heart failure was listed, but as a description more than a cause. Back in Campos, families and co-workers tried to piece together what the men had been pursuing. Both worked with radio equipment, parts, and solder. Friends said they were curious about scientific spiritualism, a strain of belief that treated paranormal phenomena as something to test. The notebook line, capsules, protect metals, await signal, mask, took on a sharper edge in that light. Protect metals might refer to removing jewelry before whatever they planned, or to shielding equipment. The masks suggested they expected a flash or radiation. If the capsules were sedatives, they might have intended to calm themselves. If they were something else, they might have been chasing visions. The shopkeeper who sold the raincoats remembered men in suits, polite and in a hurry. The bar cashier remembered the mineral water. A taxi driver said he drove two men with that look, work shoes with clean cuffs, near the base of Morro do Vintém on Wednesday evening. Past that point, the timeline thins. A climb, a view of the bay, two raincoats flattened against a drop in temperature after sunset. The masks would have blocked sight if worn, so perhaps they put them on at the last moment. The note says, "Mask," after a signal. Whatever they waited for, it either didn't come or it came, and it killed them. Investigators gathered every practical theory and ran them down. Robbery was unlikely. The men still carried cash. Murder by poison needed a poison that left no trace, and a killer who left no mark. Accidental deaths by cold made no sense in August in Rio, where the night can chill, but not enough to stop two healthy adults on dry ground. Environmental toxins on the hill would have left signs on others. Theories of suicide were hard to square with the travel for parts, the raincoats, and the cash for returns. If this was a test gone wrong, what were the capsules, and why was the water bottle empty but not missing? If this was homicide, why the masks? If this was a hoax, why die? Their own notes offered the only real leads. Days before the trip, they had purchased lead plate from a local source and cut it to shape. In the margins of the notebook were component lists for radio assemblies, and in a pocket a counting of cash that matched what they withdrew. The line that consumed attention was the instruction with times. If they reached the specified place by late afternoon and ingested capsules by early evening, the men likely died at the site within hours. No one on nearby paths reported hearing cries. If a drug was involved, it may have been taken willingly. The masks, laid over eyes after the effect began, might have been part of a plan to meet a light they thought would harm their vision. Weeks passed and certainty did not arrive. The hillside seeped back into ordinary use. The case file remained open, then cooled. Newspaper stories pushed theories that sold copies. Talk of UFOs, of a cult, of secret experiments, of men dazzled by ideas they did not understand. Families bristled at those frames. They wanted the truth to be plain. Two working men left home and did not come back, and they deserved answers that did not turn them into caricatures. Years later, the photographs still carry the details that make the scene impossible to shake. The careful dress, ties snug, shoes polished, the towels as if someone expected sweat or the need to clean up. The masks, improvised and heavy, unconnected to anything else in the picture. The receipt stamped with a time in the afternoon, anchoring the story to a counter in a city below. The notebook line that reads like both a plan and a riddle. The absence of violence, the absence of conclusions. People who study unexplained deaths know that not every mystery hides a conspiracy. Sometimes the explanation is narrow and sad. A dose misjudged, a belief carried too far. What makes the lead mask's case different is the way its parts resist being pinned to a single line of cause. If the men ingested sedatives, then why the masks? If the masks were meant for light, why no glass to shield from heat or burn? If they feared radiation, why no other shielding? If they expected a signal, what instrument did they bring to measure it? And why pick a public hill above a busy city where any glow would draw a crowd? The most honest answer is the one investigators finally wrote. Unknown. Two electronics technicians who dabbled in experiments and spiritualist ideas went to a hillside at sunset with raincoats, towels, a bottle of water, and lead masks they had made. They planned to ingest capsules at a set time and to look or not look, when a signal came. Whatever they took, whatever they expected, the result was fatal, and the masks turned a bad end into a lasting puzzle. Their bodies were found across from a bay that reflects city lights all night long, and their case has reflected speculation ever since. If you stand on Morro do Vintém and look down at Niterói, the lines of traffic and the slow movement of ferries turn the water into a net of light. The place that held the two men is a patch of ground like 1,000 others, brush, rock, and a view. The weight that remains is in the questions their story leaves behind. How to read the line in a notebook, how to weigh the pull of belief, and how to live with an answer that does not come. The masks themselves sit like period marks, heavy, sightless, and final. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.